So we moved here in the late 50s. And what I remember about El Paso is we did not eat out a lot. We went to my grandmother's house on Sunday to have pan dulce. After they went to 5:30 Mass, they'd go to the National Bakery and get all the pan dulce. After our Mass, we would spend Sunday mornings there. And then my mother always made roast mashed potatoes, carrots for Sunday dinner. We did, however, once in a while, we would go to Ashley's Garden for Mexican food that wasn't that great, but it was like a fairyland full of lucecitas. And people kind of went there because it was so pretty at night. There was Gillespie's Steakhouse, the Empire Club. There was Pappy Hines, not far from my neighborhood here. Not a lot of Mexican restaurants. The L&J, I think, was called Tony's, and my parents went there, but we never did. The Hacienda, my parents and friends went there. And interestingly enough, when I started dating my husband, we'd go to the Hacienda, and the same waiters were there that knew my mother and daddy. So that was kind of a connection to them. And then where else did we go? Chicos Tacos. My daddy's compadre, Joe Mora, started that in 1953 or 4, I believe. And we went there frequently. It was the original one on Alameda, across the street from Evergreen Cemetery. And my daddy was boxing promoter in El Paso, and Joe Mora only hired boxers to work there. It was a teeny little space. I mentioned Chicos Tacos because we were personally connected to Joe Mora and the family, and we kind of hung out there. And I even remember the manager's name that was there that recently passed away, Campanella. I never knew his first name. He was just Campanella. And we talked to him while Daddy and Joe talked boxing and talked to the fighters that were there. Now it's an iconic place in El Paso. And people that grew up here, the first thing they do when they land at the airport, including my brother Carlos, my niece Jessica, and her brother Memito, they are my brother Memo's kids. They go straight there before they go visit or say hello. We go to Chico's, we order, we sit out on the grass. Once in a while we cross the street to visit all our antepasados that are buried there. And it's part of our history, but I think it's part of a lot of El Pasoans' history, because I know people that talk about it just like I'm talking about it. If you're not from El Paso and you taste those for the first time, you kind of say, I don't get it. But we get it. We get 3 or 4 orders, and I've even taken them on trips to deliver. But it is part of our history, and of course a big, huge part of El Paso history now. We did frequent places in Juarez more than El Paso. The Martino, the Florida, the later Comedor Virginia, Casa del Sol, which was a dear friend of my dad's, Luis Estabillo, and let us have our wedding reception there when he first opened the restaurant. So we're connected to that restaurant and the family as well. But as kids, we didn't eat out a lot. There was Elmer's, where we go sometimes after Mass. Restaurants are important to us now. They weren't so much back then. But we gather to visit, to celebrate at restaurants. We love the Central for something special. I love Ardavinos. I started going to Ardavinos since it started. And now a lot of our favorite holidays or celebrations, we go there rather than a big fancy restaurant. And I go to the one on Cincinnati because it's the same. They haven't changed it. There was another place we used to go a lot called The Mills. It was next door to the Plaza Theater, owned by a Lebanese gentleman. And my cousins and lifelong friends, Sarela Martinez, Carmela Wallace, Loreno Rañanos, we wore white little gloves on Sunday. And my tia Jeannie, that's Carmela and Vilo's mother, dropped us off at the Plaza Theater, and then we went to lunch at the Mills. So I think that's why I love to do lunch with all my friends and family, because it started when I was about in the 4th or 5th grade, and they'd pick us up afterwards. But I remembered that one when we were looking back on El Paso restaurants. I recently took my daughters and my daughter-in-law to the new Plaza Hotel restaurant that was restored, that wonderful property. And I've been there a couple of times. We've been to the rooftop bar there that is magnificent, overlooking El Paso. But we also love Rulis. I love Rulis. In fact, there's a connection to him back to Casas Grandes, because the Gonzalez Musquiz family lived in Chihuahua, Parral, Casas Grandes. In fact, Victoria, my best friend in 2nd and 3rd grade, lived in Casas Grandes, and they had these opulent 3 and 4 course meals. She loved to come and eat at my house to eat my mother's tuna patties. That's something my mother made on Fridays because we couldn't eat meat. We had sopa de arroz and tuna patties, and Victoria loved her food. And when I went to her home, it was a whole other, fancy silver, candles, delicious food. Druli is related to that family, Raul. So there we are with family connections still, but his place is one of my favorites.